think social media is relevant to the pharmaceutical industry because it provides the opportunity to interact at a personal level, whether it's with a healthcare professional or with a patient.
We've always been social, we've always had conversations with our family and friends, and what social media has done is just provide that technology to have conversations with people on a wider scale.
For me, it's not whether social media is right for pharma, it's whether pharma can very quickly start to be right for the modern world that we live in.
The pharmaceutical industry has always been fairly conservative in terms of the way that it has embraced new technologies and new methods of communicating.
These things become part of our daily life and they're another very powerful way of communicating. If you're not using them, you're putting yourself at a disadvantage.
And so if the pharmaceutical industry is going to move forward at the same pace as all of our other industries that enable two-way dialogue, it simply has to embrace it.
There's still a lot of people who haven't, are not part of Facebook, or some people don't even want to be part of LinkedIn, and they just haven't embraced it at all. And I think a lot of the time that's because they just need to feel a bit more comfortable and understand more about it.
The barriers that I see quite often, the resourcing one comes up from companies that they haven't got adequate resourcing. There is the internal, very much the internal kind of regulations, which could be in that local company if they're based in the UK, but it could be that something that's coming from, say they've got a global headquarters in the US, they're fearful of doing things because what the lawyers will say in the US, so that can very much happen. And also the training side of not knowing where to necessarily start and thinking, well, actually this sounds good, we'd be prepared to take a chance, but where the hell do we start?
How does the pharmaceutical industry use social media today? I think is a fairly easy one to answer, in that I think very nervously.
Companies need to realise that social media is a continuous online conversation that's happening about your brand. It's happening right now, whether you're taking part in that conversation or not.
Healthcare professionals, that may be a doctor, it may be a consultant, it may be a nurse, it may be a pharmacist. They will use social media to engage with their own network, or they will use it to acquire information from their end user, whether that's a patient or somebody inquiring about information, or perhaps just even point a patient in the direction, or a consumer in the direction of material.
Part of the reason that we got into social networks when we did was simply to get our corporate presence on those networks and make it clear that we were there, and this is the official place where you can contact us, you can get information.
It's really interesting because you've seen a pack of companies like Janssen, Bayer and Pfizer really embrace sort of creating digital content which can be socialised using social media platforms, and you're starting to see these people and these companies pull forward.
In the US we've got a clinical trial, the recruitment and the management of which is going through digital networks, and that's groundbreaking. Will that work for all trials? I don't know, but it's certainly an interesting example.
Either you want to keep up with these bigger companies, or you want to do nothing, and I think a lot of companies are in this sort of middle section of do they do it, and actually how do they do it.
Content absolutely is still king, and you've got to look at it from a perspective of the particular project you're doing to have high quality, compelling content, and you actually need to have enough of it coming along as well in the future, so you don't kind of run out and there's just a void.
One of our jobs that we can do very well is answer questions on the brands or the drugs or the therapy area that we are working in. And yes, it is the healthcare professional that makes that decision, but actually driving patients back to the healthcare professional when they have an issue, and actually having content out there that patients can find.
Pharma's now, they've had a great first step. Where do they next go with social media? One that has been successful is Janssen's ADHD YouTube videos, and Part of the reason why it's been successful is that it's easy to share, it requires a low involvement from the audience, and it's a great piece of content.
It takes about 5 minutes for anybody to set up a Twitter feed. Probably about 7 or 8 minutes to set up a Facebook page, simply because you're probably going to add more photographs to it. However, the due diligence and the various checks and considerations that Pharma puts into any of its activity mean that actually it takes a lot longer to design something on behalf of the company for any of these networks. A lot of work is put into that.
But I think a genuine lack of knowledge as to what these channels are, what they're designed to do, and some of the pitfalls and some of the positives about what they can achieve, those hurdles are still yet to be jumped.
A lot of healthcare agencies don't understand the potential and opportunities with digital, and the digital agencies struggle to understand the restrictions that we have within healthcare. And so you sort of get this disconnect in people who should be advising our clients to the best creative approach, but also the best way to engage.
But I think that links into the other factor, which is really control. And Pharma, like most industries, has been used to feeling it has control over its brand message, over how it communicates with its audience. And of course with social media, you are losing a large portion of that control. Your message goes out there, and then your customers, whether they're patients, healthcare providers, are communicating internally and are shaping that message.
The code of practice was typically written around traditional marketing channels, and the world is changing so fast. There's a new social media experience popping up every other day.
Regulatory bodies, be they the FDA, the ABPI, the EFPIA or anyone else, can never possibly get ahead of this rolling wall of technological change.
The problem with the way people are looking at compliance codes at the moment, as far as social media for the pharmaceutical industry, is they're expecting to be given a right or wrong answer. That you can do this and you can't do that. And they're looking to the regulators to say, what can we do? And I think that's old world thinking, frankly.
I think it's easier for companies to say, well, the ABPI has not been clear enough about guidance, we can't do this thing because of them. And it's quite often easy to lay the blame at someone else's door, rather than actually look internally at their own processes. And actually, if we've got our own house in order, we've got our own internal processes right, we looked at our own regulatory systems, then we could actually do this sort of stuff.
Whatever rules we set today about what you can and can't do, the technology will move on. We'll need more rules next week. People should be getting back to basic ethical principles and understand the ethics of the rule books as they are, and then apply those ethical principles in deciding what they want to do. You know, it's not rocket science to work out what is right to do and what is wrong to do.
The greatest risk to the industry is a lack of participation, electing not to engage with the communities of interest that it needs so desperately to reach out to and engage with, for whatever reason, be it fear, be it a lack of capability.
Does it mean that they are taking a commercial risk, as in they don't want to invest the money because they're not sure about the return? Is it that they don't want to open themselves up to criticism from other companies, that they're afraid that somebody is going to complain about their marketing practices? Or is it a risk that the information that they share will end up being proliferated at a rate that they can't control?
It's okay to take a risk, and if you fail, failure's okay as long as you fail quickly, learn from it, document the learnings and actually move on and look to improve on things and do it right the next time. And I think that structure in many cases isn't in place. I think people are fearful for their own jobs, fear of failure, fear of looking stupid in front of their peers, in front of senior management. You tried that this year, you wasted this amount of money, it didn't work.
There are those that are going to set trend, those companies who will be willing to take a view that this is the way that we are going to maximise social media and we are comfortable with that.
If as a marketer you're not understanding how digital is going to shape and drive your brands, you're going to struggle to launch products and actually market products online or at all in the future.
The future for me in social is actually about mobilising. It's about creating digital experiences that work across multiple platforms. People now are using multiple devices. They're using their phone, they may be using a tablet, they may be using their PC or laptops. We need to be providing content that works across all those platforms.
I think the pace of innovation within digital at the moment is accelerating faster than Pharma can keep up. We're running years behind. What this means for Pharma is that it's got to be horizon scanning, not just what's happening online, but actually for innovations in medical devices and treatments to actually see the opportunities that it can work with those people to help drive healthcare.
The future is going to have to be the real human beings within pharmaceutical companies, not just communications people, not just marketing and sales, but the whole value that we have from the scientists through to the health economists that we have. All of these people that work within a pharmaceutical company and try to do good need to be able to come out and speak to people and have a dialogue with people. The truth is, if we are going to improve the reputation of the industry, then the industry itself needs to speak better to the public and explain our positions.